Before we begin today's episode, we want to acknowledge that the stories shared in this podcast may touch on mental health challenges, shared by real people with real experiences. If you or someone you know needs support, help is available. In Australia, you can contact Lifeline at 131114 or Beyond Blue at 13002 246 36 for confidential support. If you're in immediate danger or need urgent help, please pause this episode and call 000 now. If you're listening from outside Australia, we encourage you to reach out to local mental health services for support. Remember, you are not alone. Help is always within reach. Now, let's get into today's conversation.
Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Banter. Again, down in sunny Melbourne, doing some face-to-face podcasting, which is awesome. This year, as we've said previously, we want to take it to the next level and really elevate the podcast. And one of the ways we said we're going to do that is by doing it face-to-face. Yes, it's going to take a bit more time and effort and juggling family commitments and all that sort of stuff to get everyone in the same place. But in order for it to sort of get to where we want it to go and push it in the right direction, this is what we want to do, and we're really happy to do that. Before we start, no one here is a trained health professional. This is all, based on lifetime experiences, what we've gone through as individuals to try and help and promote and educate, I guess, people to not only judge people when you see them in the street, not knowing what they're going through, but also maybe to try and help someone if they are going through one of these issues that we talk throughout the whole podcast. Today, I'm really looking forward to this because it's a story that I'm not too familiar with because I haven't heard it. And I like that because my brain will just tick over and all these questions will just come to me. So I'm really excited to be here for this one. So joined by Nick. Obviously, there's a couple of episodes now into the podcast series. Kicked Topher out. Got a younger...
better looking,
prettier,
humble,
very humble,
yeah.
Very humble. He'll tell you.
We also want to create a little bit of, I'm a stand-up comedian,
yep.
So although we're talking about serious topics,
yep.
One message that we want to deliver is that we still will keep things a little bit lighthearted at times, yep. But we also want to deliver a strong message as well. So there will be some times that we have a laugh,
yep.
And everything like that to lighten the mood for everyone. But at the same time, these are serious topics that we're talking about.
Yep.
And if we can reach one person and help them,
yep.
That's why we're doing this. So,
for sure.
Chris, thanks for the opportunity for having me
no problem at all.
On this podcast as well.
No problem at all.
But when we started this podcast, and I've put my story up there, how I had a false blood cancer diagnosis. And through that, since then, I've suffered PTSD, medical anxiety, and I've struggled for 4 years to deal with that myself.
How have you kept good looks for all that?
They say stress really, ages you. Clearly, it works for me. I put myself in high stress situations all
Benjamin
the time.
Button, you're
I'm the opposite.
Benjamin Button,
I'm aging backwards.
Yeah.
But the guy on the right here, we went to high school together. He was another larrikin. If I look back at people that were, comedy value, people that inspired me to be a comedian and do the things that I do, this gentleman was one of them. He's had some battles that he's gone through, and like Chris, I don't know the full extent of it. Unfortunately, when you leave high school, you lose a lot of contact with people, and me and this guy, we lost a bit of contact. We've caught up only a couple of times since high school, and you're trying to catch up and, have a laugh together again. And I guess you don't always touch on all the topics and some things I've heard through the grapevine, but I know you've got an incredible story. So I've reached out to you a few times now when doing this stuff and wanted you to get a little bit involved. So this is Adriano Frio. As I said, we have gone to high school together. He's got an amazing story and he's an amazing human being. And to me, the thing that I kind of want to get out of this a little bit as well is with the way that I've suffered from a false diagnosis, you've had actual diagnoses. And so I think the message that I'll get from this as well is how you deal with actually having the diagnosis, and then how you've basically moved through your life in and how that's affected you, and how you manage everything that you're doing. So I'll pass it over to you, mate, and you can introduce yourself a little bit more, and feel free to say anything you want to talk about. And yeah, over to you, buddy.
Mate, thanks first for the kind words. That's quite taken back. Didn't know I had such an impact. I mean, I knew I did some silly shit to make people laugh in high school, but the fact that now they've manifested into this strapping, handsome bloke, talented stand-up.
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Well, I mean, let's see, me. So went to high school with Nick. Highlight of the life so far. I think to describe me, been through it all. Interesting times through it all. I guess the best place to start would be where the first diagnosis kicked in. It was 2011.
Mm-hmm.
I'd noticed this lump on my neck, and I didn't really think anything of it. I mean, as you sort of you start to see things, and the experts all start to surface, and they're like, "Oh, it could just be this, or it could just be that." And so I'm like, I think I'll just go to a doctor. So I went to the GP, thinking, "Oh, it'll probably just be nothing." You know, lo and behold, test after test, inconclusive. To cut a long story short, they took me in for a they took a biopsy, and I think, I don't know if it's here or here. Yeah. There's like a scar here.
Yeah,
that one there.
Yeah.
They took it from there, and I was just changed jobs. I was in education and wanted to go and give corporate a crack.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and worked for a company up in Sydney and was just bouncing between Sydney and Melbourne. I was up there for a conference, and I said to the doctor before I left, I go, "Look, I need to fly up there. I'm not going to sue you. Just tell me over the phone what the results are." He goes, "Oh, that's a guess." I go, "Look, I really don't care, but I need to know this for my own safety. I mean, my own sanity."
Sanity, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm up there. I'd just been ringed by the manager because I wasn't putting some information where I needed to go. So the phone call, I go, "Look, I need a few seconds." So I went out to the pier. It was at Piermont.
Mm-hmm.
And I was standing there, and they told me, put me on hold for about 10 minutes. I think they were double-checking, dotting all the I's, crossing the T's. And then he comes back and goes, "Look, I can confirm it's Hodgkin's lymphoma." Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I'm like, and the first thing I said was, "Am I going to die?" He's like, No, there's plenty of treatment. So I'm like, well, all right, still, cancer's cancer.
Yeah.
So, called a few friends, made a few phone calls, went home that night, and the journey began. It was pretty rough.
Mm-hmm. When they took the biopsy out, did they give you any indication what it could have been? Like, obviously, it could be cancer, but did they say that specifically? That's what it could be.
Always vague as. I mean, everyone's probably tried to sue everybody. Yeah. So, no, they didn't really go. I would ask, and they're like, "Look," and they always would be very diplomatic. "Oh, look, we can't tell you, we can't do this." We go, "All right, whatever." So anyway, so the anxiety started building, and the treatment was chemo and radiation, and I sort of, I did that. I mean, from memory, I sort of did as well as I could, but you start to feel like crap. You start to get sort of self-conscious because you bloat, and then I think for me, I was lucky I didn't lose my hair at that point. You probably think I'm lying, but things did well. The worst one was the radiation, because you go in, you could be waiting 3 or 4 hours for 3 minutes of treatment. And I think the way it sort of went is they gave me this thing, and they were treating all here. So on this side of my face, I had no hair, and then it sort of grew back a little different here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the side effects of that was pretty rough. So it was least invasive, but I had a row, that trench between your gum and your cheek that was just filled with ulcers.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
All through here was dried up. So your saliva glands dried up, and it was like swallowing razors.
Yeah.
So I came through that, went into remission. Everyone was happy. 2015, I remember I had a blood test done, and they said, "Oh, look, your LDH levels are up." Well, medical profession, well, what's that mean?
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, we're just going to keep an eye on it." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
So that's liver, is it? LDH? Or
no
idea. You don't know that.
I think it's like an inflammatory marker.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think, again, we're not professionals here.
Yeah.
So I just kept doing what I needed to do. And again, at that point, the anxiety, the fear had already been there of it coming back. So already there's a little bit of like trauma and whatnot in there. And at that point, I didn't know what trauma was. I didn't know what PTSD was.
Yep.
I just thought this was all part of the anxiety because years before that, I had issues with anxiety and depression. And so, you know, time goes on. I woke up one night in excruciating pain at the back, like sort of where your kidneys are. And then I went to the doctors the next day and went and got scans and stuff done. And, you know, I was sitting there sweating bullets, waiting for these scans. And they just said, oh, look, you just backed up. I'm like, well, shit, literally.
Yeah.
That's a relief.
Yeah.
But then I still had these pains. And I went to a doctor. They did more scans. And they said, artifacts. And I'm like, what? I've got fucking trophies. Yeah, have I got ancient things? Yeah. Like, is this Indiana Jones shit?
Yeah.
Like, what's up with that? So anyway, she said, no, these aren't good. These could be tumours, they could be whatever. So I don't know what happened, but she goes, do you want my face? I don't know. She just quickly grabbed me water, the doctor, and I'm like, all right. So then the treatment for that was I went into hospital for 4 weeks, and that was like I'm used to being active and stuff. Just being stuck in a chair for about 4 weeks, in bed and all that, because they have to wipe your body clean. They just basically what one nurse described it as was kill you without killing you. Wipe everything to zero and then give you back your own cells. So before you go there, you got to take your cells out. And they wipe you down, like they wipe you clean. That's when you lose all your hair and everything. And then they put your cells back in you. And this is supposed to fix it. So again, went into remission. Get to now, that was 2015. I'm sort of telling you because it's hard to piece it all back together.
Of course.
So much that you...
Mate, of course.
I'm just trying to...
Mate, of course.
And, you know, when you're in that moment as well, when they're telling you things like, people are talking and you can't hear, you can't take anything in.
Yeah. You always need someone there with you. Like, Mum and Dad were amazing, and God knows what that was like for them to just sit there and watch me do this. Like, the guy who was, you know, always training, running, active, fit and strong. So anyway, that's when things got real mentally. Like I was struggling to I think they sort of got to a point like that towards the end of the 2011 diagnosis. So basically, I remember just having full-blown panic attacks, having to get on lorazepam just to get through the hospital doors. And even then I'm vomiting into bags because I just couldn't deal with it. And then these conversations that just, I'm going to sort of bounce around a little bit. There was this conversation I had there was a couple I had throughout all the years. One of them in 2011, I was just sitting there in the waiting room and this old fella comes up and he looked like he'd been through it. And for me, I can get pretty reclusive. I just like to just sit there, be in the zone. I don't like to talk to many people when I'm at a hospital. This is probably used to you, me not talking.
I'm the same. Like in a hospital, you know, I'm just terrible.
Yeah, I'm not, like people will come and talk to me and I'll be nice. I'm not going to be a rude prick, but I don't know, for some reason, some guy, I don't know, there was something about him. So he just talked to me and I just looked over and talking and he was in like a little motorised thing. I explained to him what I'm in for and he just pops out with, oh shit, mate, you're going to be all right. Okay, thanks for the vote of confidence. And I go, what about you? And this is the first and last time I ever asked that question. And he goes, oh, mate, I'm fucked. He goes, I'm just doing this despite the disease. I'm not going down without a fight. And I was just like blew me away. That was like definition of a warrior there. And never knew his name, but that stayed with me. So that was back in 11. Going back to 15, I was really struggling mentally. They let me have medical day leave, so I'd go home, hang out with parents and my dog. And here's another here's a story. I still got him, and he's saved my life. I'll get to that.
Yeah.
And just sitting there, and I'd come home, and he'd just look at me like there was something different.
He knew something was wrong.
He knew something was up because he could smell all the chemicals that pumped me, and he was a bit apprehensive at first, and then he slowly realised it was me, and then he just wouldn't leave me alone. And anyway, I get day leave, but getting back to the hospital that night was hard. I'd have to be heavily medicated just so I could get through the doors. And I remember just driving in looking like the living dead.
Wow.
And the nurses because I would talk to them.
Yeah.
Like they were my main sort of contact at that point, and they were just like, they'll just sit there and talk, and the nurses so severely underpaid.
100%.
And I just couldn't. Yeah, they were just amazing. They just kept me going. So, that took time, and then we slowly sort of started to get through. I came back, bounced back, hair came back, got back to school. I went back one night, saw all my kids that I was coaching rugby league at the school at the time. Went back and had a chat with them, and I was there for their awards night. And it was really nice to be back into it, and I was really looking forward to getting back to work at that school in January once the term had rolled over. So January comes and goes. We're 2016 now. Things are moving all along. My job, I managed to sort of get a bit of a promotion. They upgraded my role, a little bit more responsibility. I was a bit more materialistic back then, so got a new car. It was cool. Went and picked it up. Drove to the hospital because I was just getting some more blood results and stuff.
It is a nice McLaren. Did you see when you pulled up? It is nice. It is nice. 1 of 1, was it? Yeah. Come on. Oh, was that a Mazda? Mazda, okay.
My one anyway.
I just wanted to ask you, just before you move on to the next part, having the day leave from hospital in that period, it must have been bloody hard going back in every single time because you're walking back through those doors every single time, right? That in itself must have been very difficult to do.
Yeah, you kind of feel like you're leaving everyone behind.
Yeah, and your dog. And like
they're all there for you.
Yeah.
But you kind of feel like you're leaving the outside world behind, and you're just sitting in there and you're watching the world go by you.
Yeah.
Or here you are, struggling to take a shit.
Yeah.
Yet, there's everyone, every day there was a different wedding outside St. Pat's.
Yeah.
Small ones. I'm just for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
You're watching that.
Yeah. People laugh, having a good time, TV, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I get that. It must have been.
It's hard not to get angry and resentful.
Yeah.
Start to your mind. You have your good days and your bad days, and for me, my good day was here, and the bad day was way
The worst.
So the whole way, I was just sort of when it went south, it fucking went south.
Yeah.
And
that. So speaking of that, when you meet those people like that man that said to you, that's nothing, you're going to be fine. I had a similar thing. So at my massage clinic, I was treating this old, I think she was Yugoslavian or something, from really tough, and she had such a, she would cry when she'd talk about her upbringing to me and the stuff that she went through. And one day she sort of coughed, and this is just after COVID, right? And she goes, "Don't worry, love, I don't have a cold or anything. It's just throat cancer." And just to say it's just throat cancer.
Yeah.
And, she goes, "But don't worry, love, I don't care. It's all right," And it's like that tough, where does that come from? That it's a different level of human where you can function at that level because, as I said, the experience that I had and that I'm still suffering today, and I know with your story how difficult it is, and your bad days are so bad, and you go, I just wish I could have a little bit of that superhuman strength.
Yeah, just that you could take just maybe 1/8 of just that person who could so bravely stare death in the face, and be at peace with that, and you just. Yeah, my bad days, I wanted to watch the world burn.
Yeah.
I was. I'm not proud to admit it, but play the victim card.
Yeah, but it's not fair. It's not fair because 2011. How old were we then?
I think I was about 14 years ago.
Yeah.
So 26.
26 years old.
Yeah.
And you're diagnosed with a really serious illness, and not on top of that. You're at your next one, and there's more to go.
Yeah,
life is not fair sometimes.
And even to that point as well, back then, 2011, and I know we're only 13, where we are now, 13, 14 years ahead. The research and the data they had back then is totally different to the world we live in now, right? So back then they didn't have the advancements of what they've got now. So in that itself,
it's the dark ages of I'm no professional, but I feel like. Based on what I saw then to what I'm seeing now, even the Peter Mac building, back then, was old.
Yeah.
It was run down.
Yeah.
And the rooms I was in, it just really did not feel great. But now you go there, these rooms are state of the art.
Yeah.
It's nuts. They've all got Wi-Fi and all this sort of stuff. And you just...
Like then you were talking to your neighbour through cup and rope, right?
Yeah.
No, I had Morse code. I had Morse code and stuff.
But let's get back to your story.
Yeah.
So you basically coming back, you're at work again, you've been promoted in your job.
Yeah.
And you...
Again, all these materialistic things.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there like, oh, yeah. And then I went in for just routine because I'd been wiped clean. I was getting all like tetanus shots and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I had a PET scan not far back from these. And I go, oh, look, have you got those results? He says, yeah, I can check them for you. I could see his face change. I've gone, oh, fuck. What is it? He goes, look, it's come back positive. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, something's there. So I already had another appointment booked with my doctor. And he goes, look, I was going to tell you here, but this is what we're going to do. I go, so how do we fix this? He goes, well, we're going to do a bone marrow transplant now. I didn't know what that meant. And, I remember driving home that night and I called my mate's dad, who's like a second dad to me, and his only words were, fuck off. Nah, fuck off. He was just in denial and furious and angry. And me, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know
How again?
Yeah. And so my now ex, she was there and she was pretty upset. And I don't know, we were just sort of thinking about it. And I thought, what have I got to do differently? Mentally, the last one was a struggle. How am I going to do this? And I'm like, no, I've got to start doing it. I've got to change something. And I was just thinking about this other mate that I met. We were in a room. I was in my bed. He was in his bed. And I was reclusive. I didn't want to talk to people.
Yeah.
And I just struck a conversation up with this guy, similar to the guy in 2011, and we were talking. And he was a lot worse off than me. I didn't ask him what. He didn't ask me what. It was like this mutual thing.
Yeah.
Every cancer patient getting treatment is like that. But for me and him, that was our thing. So we talked about other things. We talked about how your mindset changes. He goes, I've had all the... Yeah, he was high up in corporate. He goes, I've had all the toys. I've had all this and all that. He goes, at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter.
No.
None of that shit. No. Materialism, all that shit. And then that's what got me thinking. And it's actually quite funny. One morning I was sitting there and the doctors are coming to do your rounds and you sort of sit there and I'm like, I'm in this pain. And I'm like, I'm sweating like bullets.
Yeah.
For anxiety and pain. And it turns out I had these fucking hemorrhoids, man. They gave me fentanyl lollipops, which I didn't know was a thing. Because I had
Did you bring some with you at all?
Cash in.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so lucid.
Joe Rogan experience.
He wasn't DMT. But I had to have slow release painkillers. Palliative care people came in and I'm like, whoa. And they're like, no. We are palliative care, not the way you think. We have to have a look at you so we know what painkillers to diagnose you with so we can help you with your pain. So on top of all that, I had the painkillers, I had the psychologist at the shrink that they provided me with at the hospital dosed me up as well with antipsychotics. And I'm like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I kind of questioned it. And she's like, no, it's to help with the anxiety. And I took them and I wasn't a big fan of it, but I thought, all right, she's the professional. And that experience alone was enough to make me start questioning the professionals. So anyway, I had the slow release painkillers, the fentanyl, and then there was every time I needed to go over crap, there was this whole process. All right, Panadine for it, and the fentanyl, and then you just hope for the best. So I'm sitting in there, and my mate next to me, he could hear me wheezing and like getting all tense. And they come in, oh, how are you this morning? He's like, yeah, you probably better speak to AJ next door. And they're like, oh, what's wrong? They pop in, I'm looking at him, and I'm like, veins pulsing, sweating, like, what's wrong? I'm like, I really need to go to the toilet, but these hemorrhoids are killing me. And that's when they got in the shrink. They got this and they got that.
Yeah.
So, pain sort of became something that you just deal with. And as years went by, I always remember what he said. And so sort of at the 2016 stage when I got that diagnosis that was back, I was still sort of, going to and from. And I saw some other nurse and I go, oh, have you spoke to, I don't want to bring up his name.
No.
Privacy. I go, have you spoke to old mate?
Yeah.
And she goes, she looks at me and you could see her tearing up. I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, he died last week.
Yeah.
And it just broke me. I was just shattered. Here's this guy had a daughter and wife and a cute little girl and this, amazing wife who's just, sticking it out with him. And it was, that was when things really started to settle home. So slowly over time, I went through the rigmarole of it all. You go in 2016, you start to do your treatment. They're starting to wipe you clean. At that point, I don't want to get either of us sued, so I'll just touch on, I won't really go into the divorce, but, going through treatment, divorce happened. That just added a little bit of unneeded spice to the whole thing. So for me, I just sort of said, all right, you got to prioritize mourning, the marriage, or surviving. So I obviously chose to survive, and I just threw everything into that. So I came out of that, and there was a real silver lining to it. I met an amazing person in hospital, and we're still mates to this day. I'll say his name because he played Wallabies. He played for the Wallabies, captained ACT Brumbies, Christian Lalifano. An amazing man with an amazing family, and they were there with him every day. My family was there with me every day, and we just got talking to each other. And I think he's such a kind-hearted, beautiful person. He just sort of could see that I was really struggling with it, and we just started talking. He goes, "Come on, we got to get up." I go, "For what?" We're going to go, bro. And he goes, "We're going to get on the treadmill, and we're going to try and break the record of the quickest time we can get out of here." So every morning we would get up, and I'll be on my bike, and he'd be running. Yeah, we'd do it until we'd do our best. I think half hour every day. So that helped. And then there was other people. Like he had a guy who came in to see him. This guy had finished treatment because he was in there for a BMT as well, bone marrow transplant. And then this other guy came in. So as Christian was coming in, this guy was coming out, and they made a friendship. So then this guy came in. He was a lot older, and he was just talking to both of us and helping us through it. And then through all this real hard, real tough going stuff, both of us struggled, but we had each other. Yeah. And then there was this older guy, typical country New South Wales bloke, like, "Oh, g'day, guys, how are you?" Real sweet guy. Dougie, his name was. I don't know if he's still around, but he was just so funny. We'd sit there and talk shit, and the three of us would be talking, and he goes, "Oh, how are you guys today?" I go, "Oh, my bloods are a bit low." He goes, "You've got to get a fucking steak in you, mate." I just tried vegan for about 6 or 7 days. Yeah, right. And to clear out the body, that was part of my whole mental process. Yeah.
So I've noticed you've mentioned a few things about materialistic. So you've changed. You changed your whole.
Yeah, I tried to do it. There's still things. You're like, "Oh, that's a nice TV." You look at it, but it's not like the be all and end all. Yeah. But I'll go. I thought I'd go through all the diagnoses and then go through the mental stuff.
For sure.
Yeah. So we're sitting in there talking, and there's Dougie telling us to have steaks because our iron's low and our red blood counts are low. And we're having a good laugh.
I like Dougie, but already
he was the head physician.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, he was running the hospital, right?
If this next part I'll tell you, you'll think he's the number one proctologist in Australia.
Yeah, right.
Like, we're just sitting there and he sees me sort of like...
Now it's a party,
And you get hemorrhoids when your body gets wiped up and it's starting to heal. Part of the healing process is hemorrhoids, apparently.
Right.
Awesome.
I'm healing.
What's wrong? You got ants in your pants. I go, "No, don't. You've got hemorrhoids." He goes, "Oh, when you're in the shower, just squeeze the bastards." And me and Christian looked at each other and we bursted out laughing. I'm righto. So then one of my doctors comes in and I was trying to convince him that I could use hemp protein and this is when the marijuana, like all that, it's very I suppose juvenile stages of the treatment. We didn't know much about it.
Yep.
So I'm trying to convince him of it, and he's like, "Oh, no."
You're like, "I've practiced all through high school." Trust me, it
works. Unless you hate too much sativa. So we're sitting there, and he goes, "What did Dougie tell you? I saw you having a good laugh." I told him he was squeezing me. I go, "Why not?" I go, "What if he's right?" He goes, "Yeah, you get an infection because you've got syrup."
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't think about that. I didn't squeeze my own hemorrhoids just for the
Yeah.
I was too afraid.
He's going to try it tonight in the shower, ain't he?
Well, we've got Aki behind the camera today. I'm looking at him, and when you said that, I've been working with Op for a long time, so I know you guys. I saw his eyes light up. Just squeeze them.
I saw some vice grips over there. Just getting the multis out there. Just slowly squeeze.
Again, we're not health professionals. This is all.
Isn't that another way of saying, like, haven't you been through enough? The healing process is hemorrhoids.
Yeah.
Oh, man. It's interesting. Like, people say you've been through enough, you're a warrior and inspiration and all that, but at the end of the day, I just don't feel like I do anything special. Anyone in this position, and I say that very lightly, would be like, I've got to live, I've got to do this.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna do bone marrow a bone marrow biopsy. All right, you got to do it. You want to do it like I decided to test my pain threshold when I was doing it, so I did it without anaesthetic. So they gave me a local. But when they were in there, chipping away at the bone, felt like someone was just hitting me like all the way down into my toes. And I've had a few of those. And I'll tell you one thing. Penthrox, the green magic whistle, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. We got one here.
I had to get another bone. That's a good, funny story, actually. You'll lighten the mood a bit. I was having one, and my doctor, who wasn't convinced on the hemp stuff, when I spoke to him, I went to see him in about 18 months. This time was all in on it. So we're having a really good discussion about it. And I really loved that a medical professional was actually talking to me, giving me his take on it. He goes, I can see a lot of the benefits from it. And from what I know apparently at Peter Mac they're actually starting to use a bit of that oil and stuff. Yeah. So anyway, we're sitting there talking, and he goes, do you like Tribe Called Quest? I'm like, yeah, I like Tribe. They're grouse. Oh, sweet. Just puts it on. And I'm like, oh, sweet. I'm going to listen to some Tribe while I was tapping away at my hip bone. It was fantastic. And I could hear this shh. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, and I just sort of rolled my eyes over. He's bopping away. And so he goes, how's this? He goes, you're having Penthrox, which is sort of close to getting a little bit high. Well, I'm tapping away at this. Well, listen to the Tribe. I go, do you want something? No. So anyway, we're doing that, and it was really cool just to sit there and have that moment and just talk to this professional about it. And I don't know what he's doing now, but he was an amazing doctor.
Yeah.
I had a funny experience like that as well, right? So I had to have a colonoscopy, and the fun one, and they said we could do the gastroscopy. And I'm like, nah, don't worry, like just go the other way.
Yeah, I'm ready.
And
no anaesthetic. It's better.
Just I want to be awake for this, you know.
Especially these big pipes.
Yeah, Ock usually does it while I'm awake. So we get I get pushed in, and the nurse goes to me, "Oh, what's your favourite song?" And I'm like, "Oh, what a hard question!" Like, you know, and I don't know. My favourite song. She goes, "What about favourite band?" And I'm like, "Oh, look, probably all-time favourite band." I go, "I don't know, it's hard, but like Slipknot."
I knew it.
You knew I'd say Slipknot, right? I always loved them for the longest time and everything. And then so she's like, "Oh, great, all right, Slipknot." Then the anaesthetist is standing there. There's this like tall Indian guy, and he's like, "What is Slipknot?" And then she goes, "Oh, they wear masks and they've got dreadlocks and that." And then he just goes, "I've always wanted dreadlocks." And as I'm going out, Wait and Bleed comes on in the background. So they're playing Slipknot for me. As I'm going out, this Indian guy's saying he's always wanted dreadlocks. I'm going out, I'm like, am I in Alice in Wonderland or something? Or what's going on? But it reminded me of your story of, just having that moment where you get that extra little bit of care. And people don't like, I still remember that. It was years ago. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's amazing they even do that stuff, it's amazing.
Camera or?
No, well, we're going to find out tonight because I've just turned 45, right? So you said, he's good at them, so I need one tonight. No, just that touch, that little touch like that. And obviously I'm lucky, touch wood, I've never had to go down that path in any way, but it's nice to know that they are human at the end of the day, and they do want to make it as, less.
I don't know how people can justify the pay that nurses get. It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, it is.
They're the ones that look after you.
Mate,
the doctors will come in and tell them, the medication, this, that, and that. But it's the nurses that care for them.
Yeah. They're literally cleaning up shit.
Yeah.
They're the ones who deal with the angry family members, who have to give them the bad news. They're the ones who are on the front lines, in the trenches, and, they're treated like shit by the people they treat.
Yeah.
And just in general, just like, I don't know if it's the government or whoever, I don't know the
people that pay them,
the people that pay them. And it's like, for fuck's sake, come on. Without them, we're all dead.
And then in Sydney at the moment, there's train strikes. They want 33% pay rise over the next couple of years, blah, blah. And they're all striking. And these nurses are struggling to try and get a 3% pay rise.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, like, having amazing nurses, right, throughout the whole thing was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, Royal Melbourne, Peter Mac, big shout out to you guys. Big love to you guys. Some real big moments when the nurses didn't have to sit there, but they listened to me.
And like you're saying, you had times where you were so against the world, and they were the people that have to listen to you.
For all I know, they were the ones that pulled me back from the brink of becoming a real cynical piece of shit. I mean, there's people out there that probably think or may think I'm still that person, but I don't care if you say that, because I know I'm trying every day to be a little bit better. And like you just,
but I think it's okay as well when you've been through so much. The question is, why me?
Of course.
And why is this other person fit and healthy? Why are they getting to do the things, get married, settle down, have kids? While at this stage of my life, I'm in a hospital bed fighting for my life. Not just sick. Literally fighting for your life.
And the funny thing was, like, you sit there and you start to fall into that, and then it's a real slippery slope, because it sort of snowballs. It's like, why me, why me, why me, and this guy, and why that person, and why that girl, and it's just like, you could sit there and throw all that energy into that pessimistic way of thinking, or you can sort of go, all right, why can't I use that energy to get better? So if the doctor said you need to get up and get out of bed, even though you're pushing, you're sweating bullets after 10 steps, that 10 steps is 10 steps more than you did yesterday. So I'll go into a bit more of that as we progress. So 2016, really shit year. Bone marrow transplant kicks in, all sorted. I'm up and up. Things are starting to look good. End of the sort of going into 2017. Boys want to go away. We go out to the beach, and I'm running up sand dunes. I still had a pipe in my chest, and I thought, all right, I'm going to test myself out. So I said, fuck this. I just threw everything I had. It also helped that I was busting for a piss. I sprinted up this sand dune. I can't remember where, and I just got there, and I looked back down, and I'm like, fuck, I just did that. I better piss. I want to piss myself. So then I thought, did that, come back, running back down the hill, and I tripped and slipped. And someone's got it on video where I just dove into the sand head first because of the gravity. It was kind of funny. And the first thing I did was check the pipe, but the pipe was still in there. We're all good. So it was a big weekend. We went out. I didn't drink much. I made 1 or 2 beers, but I smoked a fair bit and had a lot of fun with the boys. And that Monday I was coming off my anti-rejection drugs, and everything was starting to look up. So then I went for I went to the hospital for a checkup, came back home. And then it was like the Tuesday or Wednesday, had to go get the pipe taken out. And like my chest looks like I've been shot a few times. I've got all these little craters for where all the pipes went in and everything. So anyway, on the way back home, we stop off a cab, I get breakfast. And I'm like, don't feel good. I start vomiting, but it's continuous. And it's both ends now. And then in the end, it just wouldn't stop. So they rushed me to hospital. And it turns out I developed, which is a bittersweet thing. When you get graft versus host disease, for those of you who have had it, it's good because it means that the new immune system's kicking in full pelt, but it's trying to get rid of the old immune system. But the old immune system's trying to get rid of the new immune system. So what it does is it tells the body, let's get rid of this thing. So profusely vomiting. And
what's it called? Sorry?
Graft versus host disease. So GVHD.
Right.
And so in the end, I'm in hospital again for a long stint. I pissed and I vomited and diarrheaed so much. I'd lost about 10 kilos in 2 days. So I didn't know the full extent of it till one day I got up, I went to the mirror, and I was like a shadow of myself. I was gone. Like I had one of those skinny bloke 6-packs, which, let's be honest, no one's proud of that.
No.
And I'm like, this is not me. And I just had a full, I don't know, call it a crisis. I hate saying it because there's so many people going outside. There's people out there going through so much worse shit. To sit there and say you're having a crisis because you're skinnier from it, I feel silly saying that. But that's just me.
That's why sand dunes are no good for anyone.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now. I've just done a recent holiday and we took away, and the friends will know because they watch all the podcasts, and we went sand duning, and they're just no good for anyone. No good for anyone.
No, make you do it.
Yeah.
It's challenging.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm in there, and long story short, like, no one knows what I can keep down. So I'm on a liquid diet, high pulse of steroids to try and...
Back in hospital?
Yeah, back in hospital, back at RMH.
Yep.
Ward 7B. I'll never forget that. BMT ward, bone marrow transplant ward. That's what me and Christian were. And the nurses there were just... I can't even articulate.
Angels. Angels.
They're amazing, those people were.
Yeah.
And so I'm in there, and we're having a good laugh, having a chat, and basically I had to go on a liquid diet for fuck knows how long, and I had to learn to eat again. So slowly starting off with bits and pieces, and that was its own journey. And it was hard because you're sitting there, and for some reason the food they were giving me through the tube smelled like salt and vinegar chips. So I'm even hungrier now.
Yeah.
So I was sitting there doing all that, and we're just slowly going through it. And so sometimes you wouldn't know if a fart was diarrhea. So the doctor comes in, and I'm like, oh, keep doing this. What's going on? He goes, mate, never trust a fart. I'm like, oh, best medical advice.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Don't have to go to hospital for that.
I've had barley belly.
Yeah.
I know that's true.
I've never had it, but
I could never trust a fart. I love that. Never trust a fart.
That came from one of the high-up professional specialists as well.
I love it.
So, 2017 was a lot of that. There was a lot of toing and froing from the hospital. I don't even know. By my dad's count, he reckons, was 36 times backwards and forwards for 2, 3, 4 week stints at a time. And
the parking bill must have been so expensive.
Oh, lucky it was public, thankfully.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
free parking in public.
Oh no! Pathway said the whole thing.
Public. Parking.
At this stage, you had VIP. I'm sure you had a parking.
I was on first name basis. Trying to get out of me bloody parking tickets. Look, the council, given like that, people have got to do their jobs. Like I never get pissed off at parking inspectors because they're trying to put food on the table.
Yeah.
Everyone's got to do something, all right, to a degree. So anyway, whenever we got a fine, we just send it in, and they'd be like, "Look." So the hospital's like, "How many fines have you had?" I don't know. We just like write letters. So they go, "Nah, here's a car park pass." So they like the social worker, she hooked me up.
Nice.
So this would keep going, and then slowly one night, towards the end of middle of 2017, they were like, "Oh, your blood sugar's a bit off." I go, "What are they?" They go, 30. You should be in a bloody coma.
Yeah.
So was that high or low?
Yeah, stupid.
It should be like 6 or 7.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
And I'm like, all right. So it turns out I had steroid-induced diabetes. So this doctor came in, literally stood at the door for 3 minutes. "Yeah, you got diabetes, got to go." I'm like, "Oi, fuckhead, like, are you serious? Like, you're going to just fuck off like that?" My dad's like losing it. No, and he took off. And so I called the nurse. I go, "Who was that?" She goes, "Who was who?" I kind of felt like I'd been scammed or something.
Yeah.
So she goes, "Look, let's call your actual doctor to come in." And so they filled him in, and he goes, "What fucking idiot came in and said that? I'm going to sort you out with someone professional." So one of the nurses, like she was like the nurse, like head nurses, her husband worked at the hospital. He was a diabetics doctor. He came in, spent like an hour and a half explaining it and everything. And he goes, is everything clear? Like, do you need me to spend more time? And I'm like, "No, you just clear the whole things up." So it turns out steroid-induced diabetes is not permanent. I said, from what mine wasn't. Yeah. And what he told me is that it wouldn't be permanent for me. You go on a lot of meds and once your like blood sugars start to get too low from the meds, we can stop. So that was said and done. Meanwhile, all this was happening. My arms, my legs were like you could get, like, that was my thigh. Like, everything had atrophied. If I fell over, I needed someone to lift me off the ground. So I was talking to Christian about it, and he's like, "Oh, fuck, bro, you're pretty ripped, eh?"
Shredding.
That was the year. It was a bit tough, and all these little things are happening. So I also found out, I'm going to try to lighten the mood again.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I found out the hard way I had developed a peanut allergy. So it turns out my bone marrow donor, I think they had like a peanut allergy, which is shit news for me because I love Snickers.
I was going to say.
Always. But I can still drink whiskey, so we're good with that.
Yeah, okay.
So we're sitting in there, and like we went to Doc Pizza in Mornington. I had a peanut butter sandwich that day, unbeknownst to me. So I
didn't know that.
Oh, mate, I didn't know there was a thing either. Because once the transplant happened, I was eating Snickers and stuff like that.
If you've got a peanut allergy, do not donate.
No, please, but tell us.
Whiskey's fine. No, whiskey's fine.
Life or peanut allergy?
Yeah.
Which one do you want?
Yeah.
Wow, you live, but there's no Snickers. Right? I don't know how bad that is for some people, but I can deal with that.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there now, we're leaving, and Dad's going to bring the car in the front because I couldn't walk far. And I'm like, vomited all over like this tree out the front of Doc Pizza, and I'm like, oh man, people are going to see this, think the pizza made me sick. And I felt real bad for the restaurant, so we took off. The time that I knew and I confirmed it was a peanut allergy was when I started lifting weights again. I needed to start training, start rebuilding my body.
Yeah.
Yep.
And for me, like I was, shrugs you're supposed to do as a heavy exercise. the heaviest I could do was like I think it was the bar. It was a 10 kilo bar, and I had little 2 kilo weights on each side. And again, going back to Christian, he said something that stuck with me, and it still is. He goes, "It might be 2 kilos, but that's your 2 kilos. That's the 2 kilos that you're doing. That's yours. That's your journey. Don't worry about that bloke doing 50 kilo dumbbell reps or whatever. Just worry about what you're doing." And I'm like, what an important message. And it's just stuck with me. Like, everyone can take that as they may, but my 2 kilos, I'm like,
yeah.
So anyway, I'm in there. I'm at the gym in Settlement Road, Dermot Gym there.
Oh, yeah.
And, it's hard to concentrate when you've got, like, you're, single bloke. You've got all these lovely girls around, like, doing all their exercises.
Seen it. Never noticed. Oh, no. I'm too busy training when I'm there.
Exactly. I'm
going to take you to Dermot Gym, by the way.
I'm not as disciplined as Nick. No way. Nowhere near as disciplined as Nick.
Yeah, I'm just focused. I look at myself and my cell phone.
Selfies in the mirror. That's the way. Just like a good broccoli head. Yeah. So I'm like, doing these little shrugs. And I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And I'm like starting to get back into training. And just like every teenage genre nightmare in the movie starts, you start to feel sick. Your stomach feels weird. And I'm like, oh, no. And I just vomited all over myself in front of everybody at the gym. And I'm like, fuck. So I ran. I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to get in trouble for telling this, because they were like, who the fuck did this? I ran to what I thought was the toilets, but it was like an office area, and just exorcist all over the place.
Yeah.
And finally made it to the toilets, and then finally made it to the car in the car park and just let it rip. My mate calls me, and he's like, bro, where are you? I'm like, I'm in the car park. Are you done? I'm like, no, I'm trucking up, mate. You have to drive me home.
Yeah.
So, since then I've had like that allergy. And the matey was there and stepped back. Actually, no, that's moving forward, that story. So slowly I start to get better at it. And I still, like, you're used to being active, so your mind it always
goes back to, yeah.
So the funniest thing, one night, me and my mate went out and we went and had some Asian food, and we're just chilling. And he goes to just walk fast across the road to avoid the traffic. Me, I'm like, I'll do the same. With atrophied legs, It's like a tree trying to run. I go, and just smashed into the ground. And I went like that, and he literally was like, oh, man, I forgot. He's like literally picked me up and put me in the car.
Yeah.
And all my hands were cut up and bleeding, and I was pretty worried about an infection. So he's Serbian, so he comes up and goes, I've got something. Put
I was going to say,
put a little shot glass. Yeah. So basically, things are chugging along, like, slowly back. I'm not really back at work at this point, but, I'm slowly starting to get better. I looked pretty messed up. Like, I had moon face, my face was bloated, everything was pretty bad, like, physically. And, being on the dating scene, that's not good for you.
No.
And, like, you try that and you just become really self-conscious.
Yeah.
Because you're bloated, your face is like, I look like that. And, things are starting to sort of, like the kidneys and stuff, the counts were going up. And the doctor's like, well, we'll monitor this. And then I had to go every day to get a saline infusion, right? Took 2 or 3 hours every day. So I'm like, all right, I'll try to put a positive spin on it. How am I going to do this? I'm like, all right, think of it as going to work. Give yourself a purpose.
Yep.
So I just sort of did that, and it helped. So I sort of felt like I was rocking up to work, felt like I was actually doing something for a change.
Yeah.
So as things go on, I start to sort of, get a bit of stability. Kidneys are still not great, but they're not overly shit at this point. And I just remember that weekend, I went, like, my school had like a sports function breakfast, and I was wrapped because I got to meet Cameron Smith there.
Yeah.
Who's an absolute gun.
Yeah.
Such an awesome dude. So chilled out.
Yeah.
And on the same day, Spud was there.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm thinking, man, these are two legends of the game. And, like, that morning I had this, like, crackly feeling in my chest, driving to the hospital, and it was kind of weird because I left at the same time as Cameron Smith, and I'm driving, oh my God, Cameron Smith's in my rearview mirror. So I'm starstruck all the way to the hospital. I get there, and the doctor listens to my chest, and he goes, there's nothing in there. I can't hear anything. And I'm like, okay. So then I get through the weekend, go to a birthday and whatever. Ended up on a date that weekend too. And I think it was the Monday or the Tuesday I woke up and I felt like crap. Like I couldn't figure out what it was. And when you hear your kettle boiling, there's all the bubbles, every time I'm breathing, I'm getting that. And then I coughed and just blood splattered everywhere. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. And then I start vomiting, more blood. And my dog, he's there and he's watching all this, and he runs down. As I was living with my folks at the time, he runs down, wakes up my mum and shit, and who knows if he didn't go wake her up, I'd say chances are I wouldn't be telling this story from chucking this bucket. And he's fretting, and so lo and behold, I'll get rushed to hospital, go to 7B again, and my oxygen levels are slowly decreasing. And they go, look, we can't do this here, so we're going to take you to ICU as a precaution. So I'm in ICU, and a few days go by, and it's a bit rough. It's touch and go, and slowly, I go back up to 7B, and I'm starting to recover. Things on the up and up, looking good. And then I get these pains in my stomach, it's just a crippling pain. I've never had that before. I'm like, what the hell? It was real sharp. So slowly they start doctors coming to check me out, and they go, it might just be gas. And then it turns out all my nether regions are swollen, and they were looking at it and they go, oh, yeah, I think you've got an infection down there, so we'll have to clear it up. Apparently it's quite common for men, like an abscess on the gooch.
Yeah.
And from an ingrown hair. I'm like, fuck. So manscaping's dangerous, guys.
That's going to say we are one.
Yeah. Well, it's like, don't show Clipper.
Yeah.
Clipper. Shout out to Manscaping.
Nair. If you're listening, Nair hair removal.
Oh man, I've tried one of those hair things, the wog hair.
Yeah.
It all it did was thin it, right? So didn't quite work. Nair didn't shoot all. So we had to get the razors in there. Change. I was looking more like a hedge trimmer.
Yeah.
And anyway, the nurse comes in and she's like, "Look, I've just noticed there was flaky skin. We are suspicious because that could be the beginnings of a flesh-eating virus." I'm like, "Oh, get fucked.
What more?
What else?
Yeah.
What the fuck else, man?" So I'm sitting there and they're, all right, we're going to do a surgery to fix the abscess, right? So they do that. While I'm in there, I go back out and they're like, "We have to give you a break because it was a long surgery. We're going to bring you back in now for emergency surgery because now we're going to check for the flesh-eating virus." But the procedure was they'll do a nick, check for any dead tissue. If there's dead tissue, they pretty much mutilate you in ways that would make a man not a man anymore.
Yeah.
So, sure enough, they explained that to me a little bit, just the nicking of it. And then they're wheeling me down. At this point, I'm hopped up with morphine, fentanyl, all the shit. And I'm just sitting there dazed, clipping away. And my brother and my mate, I'll never forget this. My brother had come down because it was pretty serious because he lives in Canada.
He lives in Canada, his brother, yeah.
He's got a great life over there. Yeah. And my mate was there with him, Bash, and him and Bash are there. And I think it was about 2 a.m. And they stayed there the whole night. And the nurses were like, "You got to go home." And one of the nurses who knew me was like, "No, leave them here. Leave them here. They'll be fine. Just let them stay in the room." And I don't remember much other than the boys being there and me clicking away and them laughing. And I wheeled back in, and they said to me, "Look, this is at this point you may not wake up the same man you were before you went under."
Yeah.
And I go, "Oh look, I just was pretty high from it all," and I go, "Just do it." He goes, "Are you comfortable with that?" I go, "I need to meet my nephew because my nephew was going to be born in January." I said, "Just fucking do it, mate. I just need to see my nephew." And the guy looked at me. He goes, "Do you understand?" I understand. Just fucking pull me under. And he's like, "All right, you're a tough man." And all right. So I go in, come out, and this is where things got weird. I don't remember anything. I only relive this through what people have told me in flashes. And what I remember was going under and real weird dreams. At one point there was this white door and this ominous sort of voice, and it's like, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, "No." And then boom, I just woke up, and I don't remember other than that. Mum, she's pretty religious. She did this oil. She told me she reckons she did this oil thing here and here, and she reckons as soon as she finishes, my eyes just went bang like that. And then I looked up and I was intubated, and the nurse was next to me, and I just look up and I'm just ran up, just grabbed her and held onto it, full on. Yeah. And she goes, "He shouldn't be able to do that. He's so heavily sedated, he shouldn't be able to move."
Yeah.
And it was just full on. And so from what people told me, like it was pretty full on. They called my parents and they said, look, the next 24 hours are crucial. He either makes it or he doesn't. Mum and Dad was just like, wow, okay. So my other doctor, he didn't know what was going on, but I was up. I can't remember. I woke up somewhere intubated, and he just walks in and goes, what the fuck's happening? No one had filled him in.
Mm.
So slowly, you know, everything's sort of coming through. And this nurse, she was a New Zealander. She lived in Torquay, and that's all I remember because I was like really cool. I was like rapt because I wanted to move there at the time. And she goes, look, he's starting to show signs. We should take him off intubation. We should start to help him breathe himself.
Yeah.
And the other doctor's a bit nervous. She's like, trust me. And sure enough, I came through. They took her lead. So I don't remember her name, but she was amazing. So then the real sort of rehab began at that point. I had to learn a lot again, like physio to walk. And I was so pumped with stuff like my legs were like huge. Couldn't fit into shoes. So at that point, I was reading a couple of books. I'd read Subtle Art, Not Giving a Fuck. Mm-hmm. That changed my priorities and it changed my outlook on life and more or less helped me through that. The other book I was reading that taught me to be present was by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now.
Yeah. And
that sort of taught me to forget about everything else, just yesterday, tomorrow, just the present moment and work through that. So I was sitting there in bed and I didn't know what to do. So every morning they're like, okay, how can I get out of here quick? And they go, all right, you need to be walking. All right, so give you a walking frame. So I'm like slowly walking, just around the ward. And then from the ward, like I thought, well, in this moment, this is all I can do. So don't worry about anything else. Being present was huge for me. So what began is just walking around the room, went to walking around the ward, went to walking up to the cafe. So for those of you who've stayed at Royal Melbourne and Peter Mac, there's that bridge. You can go to the cafe, Peter Mac from Royal Melbourne. And that became my morning thing. Walk all the way there. Sometimes it would take me like half an hour. It's a 5-minute walk. It would take you half an hour. So walk, stop, have a breather. But I kept pushing. Just kept pushing. And that's all I really did. So slowly, you know, things are getting better. We're closer and closer to getting out of there. And the kidneys, they go, look, we're just going to do some dialysis just to help clear out all the crap from your system. And all the kidney levels went down. They were pretty hopeful. And then, you know, there was a long period of time where I was getting all those sort of infusions and things again. And they said, look, at this point, like, you know, you've now got, because of the immune suppression, you've got this virus, it's attacked your kidneys, you're going to have to go on dialysis. So I started going on dialysis. And that was the hemodialysis. We have to go to the clinic. And that was hard because, like, you're the youngest person in the room, always.
Yeah.
And you just don't know how to deal with that. All right. At that point, a lot of these people were pretty calm and pretty cool. They knew what was ahead. Me, I'm like, you know, played the victim again. So I tried not to do that. So over time, you know, 3 months of that, they put me on PD, which is better. It's a lot more gentle on the body, and you can do dialysis from home with a machine.
Yeah.
So there was a few years of that, and then just bringing it forward a bit. After from 2019 through till I think it was more like end of 2019 to probably early 20 was a switch to home PD, and then I did that for 3 years, and then I had the transplant in 2023, at the start of 2023. So now, to segue to the mental side of stuff, I didn't realise how real my PTSD was until 2023. One night I was struggling to sleep, so I got a script for some melatonin, and I'll never touch it. It might be good for some people, but I'm not a fan of it. And even on Arnie's podcast, he says he prefers not to use it.
Yeah.
And so I had some, and like I had the prescribed dose. I wasn't going to be a hero, and I had a full-blown panic attack.
I had the same thing.
Yeah, you too?
I had the exact same thing on it. Yep.
It's fucked. And everything came crashing down. Like everything. I started getting agoraphobic. I started freaking the fuck out. And the next morning I was talking to them, and so I spoke to my psychologist I've been seeing for the last few years, and it just became a real battle. Like it just became a real battle. Like little things, like you close your eyes and you see yourself coughing up blood. You start to get, like, in the middle of the night, your mind is just ticking over, like it's like 100 million miles an hour. And for me, it was not as hard as what some people who deal with it. But, you know, it was every time you go to the hospital, your blood pressure's high. I'm like, it's only high because I'm here.
Yeah, so I'm the same.
White coat syndrome, mate.
Yeah. So
And so, that was hard. And just slowly over time, a friend of mine, she said to me, she had PTSD, which she's got it. And one of the most interesting things she said was, you never lose it. You just get better at managing it.
Yeah.
So over time, it's not that I got used to it. I just made the effort with professional guidance about managing it better and talking to mates about it. And it just changes, you look at it and it makes you really think, like, don't judge people. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know where they've walked. And like, I'm here today and now, like, I can train. Like, training, like, lifting weights, I mean, it helps, but don't go too hard.
Yeah. I had, so last night, we went, after we filmed yesterday, we went to see these comedians that we know from America, and we were at dinner, and I was feeling like, I don't know if you get dizzy when you start getting that anxiety and PTSD, like I start getting dizzy and everything. Yeah. And a fear that I have is that I'm going to pass out while I'm out in public and everything. And, I had this moment and, I'm not telling these guys that I'm actually struggling a little bit and I'm like dizzy and everything. And then I'm like, you've never passed out yet, Nick. Yeah. Because these are thoughts that you have in your head from your PTSD and anxiety and stuff like that. And you're like, but you haven't actually passed out yet. Yeah. So just write it out.
Yeah.
Write it out, and then, halfway through the show, I started to sort of come good a little bit again. But you can get to that point, like you're saying before, when you're thinking of vomiting blood and you're thinking about all these things, you can get caught up in that. Yeah. And it takes years to manage, like you're saying, to manage those symptoms and, but you've had such a horrific story and one thing after another. There's no way that, someone like myself who's had one false diagnosis, although it took 8 months for them to work out I didn't. So for 8 months I believed I had it, right? And the delivery of it wasn't great. But, for someone like yourself who's had multiple diagnoses and different illnesses as well, to manage that is an inspiration to me.
Yep.
Thank you.
There's going to be a lot of people that have listened to your story today. And like you're saying, you've gone from the journey of being dead against the world and feeling sorry for yourself to then taking the step to, what do I need to do today? What is my main focus on today to get myself to the best I can be? So you've done a complete 180 on your life of what you value, like you're saying, whether, being driven by buying a car to then what is the minimal thing I need to get me through to today?
Yeah.
To be comfortable.
Yeah. To meet his nephew.
Yeah, to meet his nephew.
At the end of the day, that's what was driving you to meet your nephew. Like, nothing else matters about meeting your nephew.
Yeah.
It's little things, like you just, I don't know, maybe it comes with age. I don't know, but...
No, I don't think it does.
I don't
think it does. I think
changed. Like, I look back at how I used to be and I cringe at it.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, like, how do I do that? And, you think about the divorce and everything, and it's like, I was no saint. Like, I never cheated, but like when I say no saint, like it takes two to tango. Yeah. So you can't just lay the blame on one person. Yeah. And you sit back and go, maybe if, not like you don't think about, maybe if I did this, I could have saved it. Like initially you sort of do that, but then now I look back and I go, if I hadn't been a better person, would I have been better now? Or you sort of change your outlook, and then you sit, and then I always, sometimes I do that and I think, well, why would I focus on the past? Like, I've got such a good life now.
Yeah.
Like, use the past. Like we should do with history, where you use history as a means to fucking learn from your mistakes, and that's what I try and do with me. But like you said, that inspiration, like that word, it's hard to be called that because I feel like you've got to live up to that. And like, I don't feel like I do anything special. I just do what I feel is necessary at the time to, one, do, to survive and do it. But two, like, just not treated. I don't know how to articulate.
You're humble. You're very humble.
You know what it is?
I think you're saying that the inspiration. You've done those things. I get a head cold, mate. I'm worst case scenario.
We're blokes though. That's like what we meant.
We're our own worst critic too.
But
our own worst critic.
Yeah, but
we're harder on ourselves than we are on anyone. Yeah. And like what Chris is saying, like we're so absorbed in ourselves and what we're doing. But truly, you have been through the wars. Yeah. There's no other way to describe it that you have been put through the ringer. time and time again you've been tested, and I believe that on this earth, I don't know why we're here, but other than to be tested and pushed. You know, we talk about these people that have got this superhuman strength that have encouraged you along the journey, but you're at a point now, like as I said before the podcast, I've messaged you and everything like that. To me, you're an inspiration, not only for my life, for my comedy, for what I do when I'm going through hard times. You know, you don't need to be in contact with people as such, but to go, you know, AJ's been through this and he's still dealing with it and he's still positive. And every time I've seen you or spoken to you, you are positive. You come across positive. You're a great talker. You know, you've always been a great talker since high school. We haven't had to really guide you through this podcast. You've
ideas already ticking over in my head on what we can do in the future, mate.
Because I'd love to bring you back here again.
Mate.
You know, we've kind of got to wrap up shortly, but you know, I'll just say my piece and then I'll pass you over to Chris as to say something. But you know, truly from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you coming in and telling us your story. I'm sure there's people listening to this podcast that will get something out of this, to know your journey and who you were in the beginning and who you are sitting in front of us here today. As I said, I didn't know the full extent to it. I'd heard things, I knew things. And it's also, you know what it is? It's a hard thing for someone to know, I know you're going through something, and this is back when we're younger, right? We don't know, how do I reach out to you at that point?
We don't, even as blokes, we just don't know how to sort of start that conversation.
How do I start that conversation with you? And I don't want to be intrusive. I don't want to come across the wrong way.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this. So we sort of don't.
And as a bloke, you don't know how to respond to it either. You don't know how to voice that, communicate. Yeah, man, I'm anxious. Or, yeah, man, I'm feeling nervous. Like that's all you know.
Yeah.
And thankfully, there's podcasts like this. There's things, there's resources. And guys and girls, like, just communicating that. Get some professional help. Reach out to your mates, anybody. Don't bottle it up because from my experience, I've seen people bottle it up and I've heard stories where it doesn't end right. And people who've got a kidney transplant. Like one story that broke my heart was this girl got it. She couldn't deal with all of the chemicals and things in it and she's killed herself. The tragic part about that is someone may have died to give her that kidney.
Yeah.
So that's gone. So that's 2 lives destroyed.
Yeah.
By a mental thing. And I think, you know, with awareness like, you know, this podcast, I was so glad when Nick reached out that I don't tell these stories often and it's hard to tell them. And it's almost, for me today, it's been therapeutic. So I really, really do appreciate the opportunity. I just hope someone can get something out of it. I might have been rambling at some point.
No, we want to hear you. We just, this platform.
You can sit here and talk, mate. I got, what time's my flight tomorrow morning? Mate, you can talk until 4 o'clock tomorrow morning if you want. I'm that in tune to what you're saying. Yeah. And to be honest, I'm just sitting back here sort of on a high because this is what this whole concept is all about. A stranger talking to another stranger. I've never met you before prior to today.
Connected over league.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I told you I like the Storm. I don't mean no. But I'm sitting here and I'm taking everything you're saying, but I'm also sitting here going, this whole concept and what we're doing, it's working because you're here talking about it. There's a couple of reasons why you're doing that, but the main reason is to give the listener an insight to what it's actually like. People sit there and go, oh, you know, I've got this going on in my life and this happening and that happening, but you've literally been fighting for your life to survive. And what you're saying is to meet at the end of the day, it's just to meet your nephew. That's all you wanted to do. So from my point of view, I'm just totally blown away by the whole story. And again, to be totally honest, in my head, I'm hearing like all these ideas on how someone like yourself can empower other men, especially going through it. Maybe for the first time they've got that diagnosis and they think, shit, my life is over. Well, hang on. Slow down. Like, let's break it down. And that's what the power of this is. So thank you. Like, I cannot say this, to be honest with you, 100%, apart from Nick's podcast, best podcast I've done so far. I truly, truly mean that because it's very impactful. And I'm telling you now, it's going to be for me.
I've put together a list here in Melbourne while Chris has come down from New South Wales. And I didn't really tell you, but I knew that this would be a podcast that you'd be very interested in listening to AJ's story.
Yep.
And so I'm grateful that you felt that way, but mate, I just can't thank you enough for what
in my head, right? In my head, I'm thinking, well, that's surely that's it for him. Like, not that's the end of it. But surely nothing else bad can happen to this guy. Like, surely. And then the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing. And I'm just like, holy shit.
I did write a blog a while back.
Oh, yeah?
And that was one thing, guys, is if you don't want to talk to people, write it down.
Yeah.
Write it down, journal.
It ended up being a 45,000 word thing across a bunch of entries. And it had a beginning, a middle, and an end. And people were like, why did you end it? I'm like, because the energy. I put all the energy I wanted into it. It had run its course, and it was time to put it where it was.
Yep.
And towards the end, it felt a little bit forced for the sake of doing it. I go, it needs to be put to bed now. And
have you published it? Do you have
it was published for a little bit?
Yeah.
And just for my mates around the world to read. And then I just pulled it down, and it's just sitting there now because I just sort of feel like if I had to read it, I was such a different person then.
Yeah.
I'm like, what I said in there may have got me in trouble if I put it public now.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of it. Sometimes it was ranty. Sometimes it was what we got today. Other times people would message me and say, fucking hell, that's something. And it's just there. I'll flick it to you if you want to have a read of it.
Yeah.
But it's,
I would love to. I've only met you today, and hey, if you don't want to, that's fine. But I would love to because I'm just really engaged with this conversation. I personally believe that people are put here for a purpose, and what you've gone through, and I'll relate it back to this whole thing that we're doing here. I sat with a psychologist when I was going through my anxiety and depression, and I said to the psychologist, I've got this idea for a podcast about mental health. What do you think? He goes, mate, if you're feeling that, take it and run it. This was 3 years ago. Take it, run with it, and do it. Listening to what you were talking about today, I personally think that there's something there that you need to tap into to tell your story to the world, not just to a podcast locally, to the world. Because
I don't know how to do that.
Well, you've got to start look into it because it's a very powerful message. Not once, not twice, but all the stuff that you've gone through in your life, mate.
You are an inspiration.
Yeah.
You are an absolute. Your character.
Yep.
The person who you are today, sitting in front of me, and there's still so many traits of high school that I see, and the fact that we can just catch up like this after maybe 5 years or so, and we had such a great year. We had such a great year level. I couldn't thank anyone enough for the year level that we had. There's so many people in it that you could still do this too with everyone. But with yourself, I know that there'll be people from high school watching this, and they will be feeling the exact same way that I feel now in the studio with you. But we do have to wrap it up now, mate. But I just can't. There's words can't describe your story, who you are, and we love you for what you've done.
Thank you.
Truly, it's hard to hold back the emotions in this instance because we're being close in life, and and I hope that going forward, like Chris said, we can do other things together, and we'll definitely have you on board. And that's why with the first show and everything that we did, I reached out to you. I want you to be part of what I'm doing here because you're the reason why I'm doing this.
Yeah,
mate, I'm lost for words. I really am. I don't know what to say other than thank you for giving me a platform to get this off my chest. So, I'm really taken back, mate. But both of you guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I really do. Thank you, guys. We'll wrap it up there. Final thoughts. I told you when we started doing this that by the end of it, you're drained. Yeah, it's because and hey, we didn't even talk that much, but it's processing everything that's going on. So, look, thank you again. We'll get this out as soon as possible. I think this is one, as I said to you, this is the best podcast I've done. So I want to say thank you to everyone out there, especially to AJ coming in and spending some time with us. Thank you. Thank you. Keeping Toasty in the background under control. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.